Good morning, everyone. I welcome you all to Sunday Speaking Series powered by Shubh Language Academy, the French House Jaipur. Today, as you can see, our topic is effective communication skills. And we are extremely fortunate to have with us our expert for the day, Miss Navami ma'am. Good morning, Navami ma'am. Thank you for having accepted our invitation.
Thank you so much. It feels great I mean, it's a Sunday though, but still, I feel very excited. I've been ready since morning, thinking that I could meet new people and talk about communication. So, thank you for
Absolutely.
inviting me.
Thank you so much. And indeed, it's a Sunday, and everyone has taken some time out from the busy schedule. I would say
Yeah,
busy at their personal level. I'm sure Sunday is a personal day, but still everyone is
exactly.
interested. So thank you everyone for having joined the session. That means a lot to us. To talk a little bit about our expert, Ms. Navmi, she is an assistant professor of English at Manipal University, Jaipur, and she's currently pursuing her PhD at the Department of Humanities and Social Sciences, IIT Kharagpur, West Bengal, India. Um, Her research is rooted in literary urban studies, gender studies, cultural studies, and authorial intention and interpretation and literary criticism. She has taught English for communication to the undergraduate students of science, engineering, entrepreneurship. Just letting in people at the
Good
same time.
morning, sir.
Good morning, Shubhashish. And I was just talking about our expert. So, Navmi ma'am has taught English for communication to the undergraduate students of science, engineering, entrepreneurship, humanities, and social sciences at IIT Kharagpur for almost 7 years. Also, she has conducted sessions on effective communication skills to undergraduates and graduates working in corporate sectors. So, we look forward to an interesting and enriching session with you, ma'am. Uh,
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
yeah,
Thank you for the
thank you.
introduction.
Ma'am, you
And,
have been to Kharagpur.
Yes,
yes, ma'am.
Kharagpur,
Yeah,
IIT
ma'am
Kharagpur.
is
Yeah,
connected with
obviously, because
IIT
it's from
Kharagpur.
my state. I'm from Bengal.
Oh,
Okay. কেমন আছো তুমি? ভালো আছো?
Hello. And are you aware of Jagadhatri Puja? It's very famous here in Chandanagar in Hooghly district. So
Yeah,
this
yeah,
is
I've come once. I've come and attended the puja once.
yeah, it's going on today. Today is the last day and main day, and tomorrow is the procession.
Great. You must be having a lot of fun.
A lot of trouble, in fact. I'll tell you
okay.
honestly, you know the crowd. And yesterday, I was while returning home, I could not get out of the platform, and for 25 minutes we were stranded at the exit of the platform. Then I
Oh,
had literally argued with the police over there. Okay, I showed my temper. I literally, argued with the police officer who was in charge. I crossed the railway tracks and
oh my
shouted at
God.
him, and then I managed to get out of the platform.
Okay, perfect.
It's
Shivashish,
Okay. Okay,
I
okay, carry
think,
on. Sorry, ma'am. Yeah.
no, no, I think that example sets the whole context because there has
Yeah,
to
that's a
happen.
communication, exactly. And this is a coincidence.
Yeah, indeed,
That
indeed.
how you have to communicate in order to
Yes,
make our life easy.
absolutely. So effective communication skills is something that we all
Effective
need
communication
every
skills. Yes, sir.
every time,
sure.
every second in our life, not only at a personal level, at a professional level as well. So we
Yes, sir.
understand it and how we have to go about with that. So setting a little bit this context for today. So effective communication skills are vital today as they enhance clarity, build trust, and improve relationships in both personal and professional settings. Clear communication fosters collaboration, minimizes misunderstandings, and enables efficient problem solving, essential in a fast paced world where teamwork, adaptability, and strong connections are crucial for success and growth. So I think the context is all set, ma'am. And now I would like to start the session by asking you a very simple yet important question. What do we understand by the word effective communication? If you can explain a little bit about it, and then we'll go ahead with the session. And you can develop those ideas and thoughts. I would be asking you questions, and in the end, we'll be opening the session for everyone to ask their questions, or maybe if they have their own experience to share.
Okay,
Over
sure.
to you, ma'am.
Sure, sir. Sure. Thank you. So, so I also wouldn't, I'll just cut to the chase, defining effective communication. So there is a textbook definition to effective communication, right? So it depends on the parties involved in the process of communication. So if we divide the parties as a sender and a receiver, and the message that is encoded and sent by the sender to the receiver, if it is properly decoded by the receiver, then we say that the communication process has been effective, has been successful. For instance, that uh, party A is sending a message and using any kind of a channel. It could be a telephone, it could be in person, it could be over an email. And there is a party B, and that particular party understands the message as sender A intended it to be. They're sending a message, let's say, I'm going to the party. That's the message. And if the sender B understands that message that, okay, A is going to a party. And if if the receiver B understands the message as, okay, A is going for a party, but they have not invited me to the party. So that can cause a misunderstanding. That can cause a conflict about which we'll talk later. So that is why effective communication could be defined as a situation where the message sent by the sender is decoded by the receiver as the sender intended it to be, without any
Right.
misunderstanding, without any conflict.
Absolutely. So when you talk about the fact that when A sends the message to B and B completely understands the message in its original form, the way it was sent by the party A, but then too, as you rightly mentioned, it tends to get deformed, changed. So before even moving on to why that happens, so we would like to go back to the question as to why is it important, ma'am, in today's time, effective communications? Because people might say, "Oh, I am good at it. Whatever I have to say, I say it." Do they need to learn, and why is it important in today's era to be competent enough to pass on your content in the right way, which means to be an effective communicator?
Yeah. So, as a human being, like Aristotle said, we are all social animals, right? So, we are constantly engaging with people, even if we are living alone, we are not sharing our space with anyone. At some point in our life, or some point in time, we are meant to interact with other people. Maybe it could be for shopping, it could be for work, could be for any personal reason, or it could be regarding any medical case. You might want to meet a doctor or a nurse, would have to go to a social gathering and all of it. So we are not cave people. We are not isolated into a cave, right? So we are constantly, as we're constantly interacting with the society, like you said, that's why communication is essential, because we're constantly communicating, and it doesn't have to be verbal. When we discuss about verbal communication, it's not what is just written. Verbal means whatever whenever you communicate using words, right? So mostly when we talk to the students, also they also have an idea that verbal means written, and non-verbal means something which is not written. But verbal means whatever communication which is used, where we use words, right? So we and words are very powerful. Each and every word that we use, especially now is a scenario. People often, I could hear my non-English, because I'm from a literature background. I have engineering friends, and because I'm from IIT, they're constantly like, it's very difficult to talk to you people, because you are always thinking about political correctness and how it shouldn't affect the other person, how you shouldn't be body shaming, you shouldn't be racist and all of it. And I'm like, what harm is there? You're not hurting the other person. That's really important, right? You are saying something, and because most of us have been through the 90s, we know how certain humor had been developed on screen through serials, or even through newspaper jokes, right? So it's at the cost of someone else. So now people are very conscious about not, at least if not, they believe that I don't want to hurt people, at least the system enforces the need to be empathetic to the other person, to your fellow human being, because they also deserve a space in this world, right? So, to come back to your question, that how or why is effective communication significant, and why is it necessary that the receiver or the listener takes the message as it intended to be? So there are different, when we'll talk about barriers and all of it, we'll come to the factors which influence our communication, right? So the significance of effective communication basically could be defined or could be discussed as a need to have a harmonious social well-being, right? Because we are social animals, we constantly interact with people, and each and every one of us deserve an equal place in this world. It should be all of our ideas, all of our messages, all of our emotions are communicated across through different media. It is very essential. Effective communication is very essential so that people feel very social, very friendly. So can you give me 1 second because
Yes,
I
yes,
missed
ma'am. Yeah,
that.
sure. Not a problem. So today's topic, for those who have just joined, it's effective communication. So we are moving ahead with the views of what effective communication is and why is it important. So after like halftime or maybe after some time, we will open the session for everyone. Yes, ma'am. Over to you.
So sorry because it's a
No, no,
Sunday
it's
and
perfectly
I
fine.
live in a rented apartment. The
Right,
owner had just come. Sorry.
right. No, no
Yeah,
problem, sir. Carry on.
yeah. So that was, I mean, maybe while we discuss further, we would be able
Yes,
to come to that significance. At the end of the session, we would cogently put that idea
yes,
of effectively communicating.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So what you mentioned is very impactful, ma'am, that words have power to make or break. And that's true in today's world. There's also a lot of narratives that have come up in today's contemporary world, I would say. We have seen messages floating here and there, people saying that, I don't know how you respond to that. The message could be, I am responsible of what I say. I am not responsible of how you interpret it. How do you see this? Because when
Hmm.
you say that, what is said has to be taken in the right spirit, in the same emotion as well. But how can I say this message by saying I am responsible of what I say? I don't know how you interpret it. It's for you to see. My intentions are pure; they are good. Now it's for you to see. So, is there a mutual responsibility to effectively operate the whole process, or is it just from my side? I'm done, and it's for the other person to take care of it? It's just a question that came in my mind because when you said it has to be a harmonious process in the end.
Yeah. No, that is a very relevant question, significant question, because it is not an individual's sole responsibility to communicate effectively, right? And because we do not exist as an individual, right? So to ease up this answer, I would suggest that everyone in our mind we could make a distinction between the personal and the professional, right? Most of us, if we are not an employee, if we are a student, then again there is a difference between your personal space and your college space, your educational academic space. So uh, the moment we draw that distinction, we are very clear on the fact that we cannot interact with a person in our professional space like we do in our personal space. That distinction is very clear. So we are mentally or we are conditioned to make that distinction that this is home and this is where you can be open, you can be free, you can do anything or you can say anything. And in professional space, you're supposed to maintain some decorum, some discipline, right? But in my idea, I would suggest that whether it be a personal space or whether it be a professional space, as an individual human being, we have no right to take another person for granted. If even if it's if it is in our home, and if we could say, It's my parents," I to say all of that, whatever comes to my mind, it's fine, and I don't even have to apologize, right? But no, they are not just your father, they're not just your mother, they're not just your siblings. They are also another individual who are interacting with the space, right? With other people, and they are also built in the same environment that you are in. So uh, you think, okay, I can say whatever I want, but you are not considering yourself in the other person's position. And to an extent, they also might be like, हाँ ठीक है भाई है, it's fine, they are my brother, they are it's fine, they are my father, they could say like that. And but now we realize even the simple mockery or teasing which might have happened in our childhood, it still retains with us. It might be about our body, it might be about how we speak, it might be about our color, it might be about our interaction with the opposite gender, anything it could be. So it stays with you, and it's very difficult for an individual to get out of that conditioning. And that would impact another person that this person meets in their life. So I would suggest that it's always while we are taking classes, I constantly give activities to my students, and the activity is a blank comic strip. So I give them a blank comic strip and ask them to fill it up. So you have to play multiple roles. I'm not giving you one particular character and asking you to fill that particular character's dialogue. But then you analyze, okay, this person is communicating in this way, this person is communicating in this way, and then, okay, so this must be the response, or this should be the response, or this shouldn't be the response. Right. So we could see students then they're like they might ask, ma'am, how to think of this person? Maybe this was a beggar, or then this was, I don't know how they speak. Then I'm like, then you imagine. So one important part of effective communication is imagination. You constantly put yourself, we constantly discuss empathy, sympathy, pity, and all of it, relating and connecting and all of it. But the for me, it's imagination, because you constantly think, constantly imagine what, because we already built this idea up in our mind that, okay, I'm going to say this to this person. But you are not thinking of the response that you would be getting. Right. So you say something and I'm like, हाँ मैंने तो बोल दिया. I just said it and let that person take it in whatever way they want. No, you communicate with an intention, either to make the other person happy, or just to communicate something, or to make the other person angry, or to hurt other person. So the intentions are different. So I think, let it be the sender or the receiver, any party, all of us, we are stakeholders in the whole, in the global communication realm, right? We have to constantly think of the words we use. We have to constantly think of how it would impact the other person and what the consequences would be. So there is an accountability to both the parties or all the parties involved in the process of communication.
Absolutely. I think very beautifully you have put across that it's the responsibility of both the parties to let the process be significant and successful at the end. So the message that has to be delivered should reach the other person in the intention that it has been delivered with. And at the same time, both have to take care of that the process be successful in the end. So when we say successful, that we have come to the end of understanding each other in the right way. What you say is very captivating for the fact that our childhood memories, they shape the way we think and we deal people across around us. And so these impressions that we have, if they are filled with love, empathy, active listening, then we tend to become the same person. And if we have been bullied in our childhood, then we sort of develop that kind of an approach towards other people as well. So I think that's very important, how the ambiance is, how the environment is. That brings me to the next question, ma'am. There's something called active learning, which is one of the important key aspects of effective communication. In today's time, we talk about the fact that I am listening to respond to you, and I'm not listening to understand to you, not listening to
Hmm.
understand you. So the people who are just responding because they have to respond and they don't understand. So listening becomes to respond and not to understand. How do you see this whole shift wherein I have to respond something, I have to respond to this person? How do you see that phenomena developing?
So, when we speak about active listening, we constantly draw a distinction between hearing and listening. We constantly hear, right? So this is basic fourth standard English that we are communication that we are speaking about, right? So, we constantly hear different sounds. We constantly listen, hear whatever is happening. We hear people speaking right now also, because now we are on an online forum with the cameras off. We actually don't know, maybe people are, and it's a Sunday, so I can imagine there might be too many works, and because this is on communication, you could maybe the attendees, some of them might be with headphones and doing some of their other chores at home. Right. So they're multitasking. We are in an era where we are forced to multitask. We juggle between things. We juggle between jobs. We juggle between personal and professional. Right. So active listening, like you rightly pointed out, it has taken a hit, I would say. And the major part is a major factor which has impacted active listening, I would say, is the introduction of headphones to our daily life. So, and with the AirPods or with the hand-free headset, it has become very easy that you can constantly see people with one ear with their AirPod, with their earphone. Right. So they might be constantly listening. It could be anything. I'm not saying it can be entertainment, but it could be anything. So you're talking to your partner and then you are listening to a lecture, or you're listening to a song, you're listening to someone speaking, you're listening to the news, the daily news, or you're playing a game or anything for that matter. Right. So your attention is divided, and you are losing the eye contact, you are losing the gestures that the partner or that any your friend has shown, or the meaning of the conversation. What are they trying, or what are they trying to derive from you as a as a listener, right? So you miss on all that cues because you're focused somewhere else. And the attention span with the reels, with the shorts, Instagram and YouTube and all other social media, it is reduced to 15 seconds, not even 30 seconds, right? So it's within 15 seconds, how much can you communicate? How much can you understand? How much can you make sense? So that is a question that we all of us need to, and we constantly speak about conflicts, we constantly speak about marital problems, we constantly speak about the lack of understanding between any two parties. It could be between two friends, right? Because they're just not listening to each other. They're like, and like you said, I if I have a problem, and I might not always be seeking a solution from my friend or from my anybody. You might just be there to listen. So at that point, as a listener, what we have to do is, okay, we have to put ourselves in the other person's shoes, like I said, answer to the last question, to constantly imagine, okay, this is my friend or this is my partner, and they want to listen to me. They want me to listen to them, their issue. And I shouldn't be waiting, because when you are waiting to respond, your brain, your mind is constantly trying to build an answer, construct a response to the question or to the issue, to the problem raised by your friend or your partner or your parents, anybody. Right. At that point, you're missing out on the emotion conveyed by the speaker. They might be sad and they might just want someone to hear you, someone to listen to you, and someone to, maybe at the end of the conversation, they would just need a response saying, no problem, yeah. It just passes on. I mean, it's fine. It's another phase. It will move on. You just have to be strong. Maybe you need to offer only that. Might not be that कि हाँ चलो तुम हर बार you do this every time, you don't, why do you interact with such people? No, that person might not even want you to say that, want you to give a solution. Right. So active listening, I would say all of us should work on. And because, and it is okay to keep your headphones aside for some part of your life, because there are other natural sounds, right? And nowadays, even if we have to seek a pleasure of listening to the rain, we have YouTube for it. We switch on YouTube, on a YouTube video where it'll be like peaceful, calm music to help you concentrate, and it's about a waterfall, it's about a rainfall. And what about when the actual rain comes? Do you pay attention to that? Do you still go out with your friends and say, "Chalo, let's have a tea"? So maybe up until our generation, it could be easier, or like I said, but for the next generation, for the students, when we see it, it's very different for them. So, communication process, this I would ask you to be very aware of this thing, that communication is an evolutionary process. It evolves over time with the changing media, with the changing channels. It constantly evolves. So, when communication evolves, and we are living in a digital era, so communication is evolving by seconds. So all of us should be try to at least try to be up to date with this evolution and get ourselves updated. So I'll just for this question I'll just stop
Yes.
there and then yeah.
Right. I think very beautifully you have said this thing, ma'am, that at times we don't seek responses, we don't seek answers. It's just that we want someone to listen to us in a profound way. And
Yeah.
just, I think even that phase helps a lot for the other person who's listening to give some answer. Maybe in the end, once you have heard the person well, you have listened to his or her problems and have allowed the person to just, release the energy that he or she is holding inside. So I think that's very important. But the unfortunate part is that people really prepare their answers and they are ready to respond. So I think that is something that we all need to understand. How can effective communication still be done wherein we are silent and we are trying to understand the other person, what he or she is trying to say?
Yeah. So I would just add one more point in that, because we're
Ji.
discussing on effective communication skills.
Right.
Right. So skill, we term it as skills because skill is something which we can develop. It is not something which is essential, which we are born and we are born with it. No, that is a vital part that all of us should understand, and that is where all of these sessions, or all, these trainers and all. Because if you go to especially in a city like Bangalore, you could see call centers. There are call centers. There are other banking sectors, and they give their employees training on communication. There are communication trainers, right? Because you can develop all of this as a skill. So skill also needs practice. So both of us being here having a conversation, and 15 of them or 20 of people listening to us wouldn't make a difference. Only when all the theoretical aspects of whatever we've discussed here would be brought into practice, then there would be a change in the way you communicate, in the way your fellow beings understand your points of view, your perspectives, your ideas. Right? So it is very essential to remember that whatever we discuss regarding speaking, regarding listening, regarding writing, regarding reading, all of these are skills. So which in time can put some effort, which we can develop using different practice methods that we could use daily in our everyday life. Yeah.
Absolutely,
So
absolutely. I think you rightly mentioned, because it is a skill and it can be developed with passage of time. The more we work on it, the better it becomes. Similarly, as the title itself says, that it is effective communication skills. So skills are something that we can work on day in and day out. The next question, ma'am, I'd like to ask you is, what are the barriers to effective communication that people commonly face? And then along with that, if you could help us with some techniques, because I'm sure we would in future like to have more sessions with you at length, because it's not something that we can do in a few minutes. But then if you could just throw
Yes.
some light on what are the barriers, what are the obstacles that people generally face, which happen unknowingly, maybe they are not having that intention, and if there's some ways out wherein we can get some solution for those kind of problems, if you have some examples or some things for us.
Okay, so day by day, the barriers, when we read books on communication, when we hear lectures on communication, the barriers to effective communication, they're increasing day by day. But to cogently define or discuss a few barriers, it would be very technical. So it could be physical barriers, it could be psychological barriers, it could be cultural barriers, it could be gendered barriers, right? So physical barriers would encompass where for instance, we are connected online. I'm in a different place. All of us are in different places, and we are connecting over internet connection. So because of the unstable connectivity issue, all of such issues, the communication might not be effective. There is constantly noise. Noise is what we term as the unwanted disturbance to an effective communication process. So it could be physical. So it could be geographical, like we said, because we are in different places. It could be if it's over a telephone and the network is not steady. The audio transmission would be not as stable. So that could also affect. Maybe after a point, you won't be asking, "Am I audible?" You would be just saying, and the other person might not be hearing you, and it is on the other person, the onus falls on the other person to respond, and they might be responding in a way which might not be the right way to respond. So then there is an issue happening there. So that could be counted as physical barriers. Or let's say you are not you have your physical incapabilities. For instance, if it's a blind person and you are communicating, so there is a point, if you're not trained or if you are very new to the scenario where you're talking to a blind person, the communication might not be as effective, right? So that can be counted as physical barriers. And psychological barriers would be like, I am, like we said, we work from 9 to 6, or we work from 9 to 7, or early 7 to let's say from 7 to morning 7 to evening 7. So it's 12 hours. So after 12 hours, how much can an individual focus on things? How much can an individual digest or uh, intake? What would be the intake capacity of an individual? So after a point, your brain is so drained and exhausted, you just cannot take in things anymore. So then you would respond to a particular issue in an unintended way. Or suppose you are sad and your friend is sharing a happy news with you. So you might not be able to take that news in as intended. So then again, the speaker would be like, I've been so happy about my news and you are just sad about it. So don't appreciate whatever success that I have in my life. And then there is an issue. Right. So that could be psychological barriers. Then we have cultural barriers, especially in a global era where the world has turned into a global village since 90s that people have been saying this. So now the issue is okay. I'll just connect my laptop because it's charged.
Right.
My laptop in the first hour itself has drained out. Yeah. So, in a global era where if the whole world has become regular space, and it's very the interaction between the interaction is with people belonging to different cultures. So, let's say if I am a migrant from India to Africa, let's say, because We Indians or the third world nations, we were constantly undermined by the first world nations, right? So somewhere in our mind, we want to enforce our superiority, and mostly we do that to the African people because of their color, their race, and all. Somewhere in our mind, we have lots of prejudices against them. So I already have a biased notion of people in Africa, and then and I go there, and I have made up my mind. And let's say I just go there and, oh, okay, so your city is so developed. I'm happy to see that. It's really good. You're not giving a compliment. We think that, okay, this is fine and I'm giving them a compliment. No, I'm not giving them a compliment. They're like, okay, so you have underestimated us so much that you thought we are still living in mud houses or in kacha houses. If we don't have infrastructural facilities. And sure, there are places which are poor, which are destitute, and they need infrastructure. But we cannot assume a whole country to be under poverty, right? Or we have some, that's just an example. I'm not saying all 20 of us, we believe that way. I'm just saying this could be one of uh, an instance to explain the situation where we have cultural bias, where we have racial bias against the other group of people, and we are not, if we are not studying the other culture, if we are not aware of the other culture, then we might get in trouble. And if it's in places like Germany, or if it's in places like Middle East, you might end up in a lot of trouble. So it is very essential to remember of cultural barriers and be prepared with it. If we are traveling or if we are meeting someone, and it is not just about at an international level. It's also in a national level, right? So I am from Kerala, and if I'm meeting initially when because now I've been working in Jaipur. Initially, I used to hear the question, "आप लोग सब में you use coconut oil? You eat and you cook with the same oil. You have the same oil on your hair and while you cook." So I'm like, no, that's not true. We use, of course, it's coconut oil, but in different manufacturing processes, through different processes and all of it. So that is because even maybe 20 years ago, we could have been so unaware. We could have had absolutely no idea what is happening there, because things were written in books, and everybody did not have the chance to read a book or get a book or even buy a book. But now things are different, right? You're constantly on social media, constantly aware. So at that point, there are certain questions. Even if me coming to Rajasthan and asking, "Acha, aap Hindi nahi bolte?" That is a problem, because I should know that there are different languages spoken in a state like Rajasthan. It's so diverse. Everybody did not speak the same language, and that is not Hindi. Most of the South Indians believe every place above Maharashtra or Madhya Pradesh, they all speak Hindi. So that's a bias. So it goes either way, right? So that is, if we go on to talk about cultural barriers, it's endless. We could have several examples. So the next barrier is gender. So when now it's very important that the world is not typically divided into men and women. We have men, we have women, we have transgenders, we have other communities, LGBTQIA plus. It's a large spectrum, and it's time to accommodate them into everything, because government is giving them an opportunity. Every other scenario, job sectors, all of them are bringing all people together, right? So even when we are in a workplace, we could sense the difference between the communication between a man and a woman, and a man and a man, or a woman and a woman. Right. So there are particular instances that we or we suggest students to not speak like that. and we have gender or orientation or communication classes. Sometimes some departments arrange that, and it's very essential because there also the biases work. Women imagine all men are the same and they don't, for instance, let's say they don't help at house. And if the communication goes like this, ki, you are all men, what do you know about house chores and household work and all of it? But how do you know that? Maybe that person comes from a household where he helps out. So that man does not have to listen to this complaint as a representative to all other men. The same goes for women. हाँ तुम लोग तो वैसे ही कामों में घुसे रहते हैं. So what kind of a work are you going to do? It's very we have already made up our mind that nothing is going to come out of your effort. Right. So these kind of communication issues or biases and prejudices could be avoided so that everybody, like again, to coming back to my first point, so that everybody can feel at home, to feel at peace and in harmony with each other.
Absolutely. I think you very interestingly mentioned all the factors that can impact the effective communication that we would like to construct with someone. And also the fact that these are stereotypes and prejudice which exist in this world. An open mindedness and having a foresightedness towards how we deal with the relations and people that can solve a lot of issues, and especially the fact that with the globalization happening across, we are in a better situation of awareness, which is true
Mm.
what you rightly mentioned, that previously having that ignorance was the only option because we had no idea how it operates down south or maybe in the other countries or maybe here in north. But with the technology being a part of our existence, we have to update ourselves. We cannot be ignorant anymore. We cannot afford to be ignorant, and we have to embrace people the way they are, and of course, do it in a way that the communication stays effective. Before opening the session, because it's very interesting to talk to you, ma'am, and I really feel that there are so many participants who would like to ask questions. So, if you could just raise your hands, and we would ask our participants to put across the questions one by one. So, over to you, Mohammed Arslan. You'd like to ask something?
Yeah. Good morning, all. First,
Good
Good
morning.
yeah.
morning.
Firstly,
Good
we are
morning.
talking about the effective communication. So my point is that effective communication. Actually, I'm not good at communication, as my teacher always told. Like I'm improving, but I personally recommend when we are talking about the effective communication. So I have 5 C's, which is very impactful for the communication. Like the first one is the clarity, and the second thing is the conciseness and the concreteness, and the fourth one is correctness, and the fifth one is like correctness when we are talking something. So this thing, when we working on these things in 5 C's, so it will be very effective for the effective communication that I have observed of myself, and I am always discussing with my like teacher for the improvement of my like communication. That's that's uh,
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Arsalan, you're very right to point this out. I mean, I did not want the session to go into, I did not want it to be very technical. That's why I did not discuss the 5 C's or the 5 R's and 5 P's, all of it.
it's
So,
just my
but yeah, like you said, but all of this clarity or conciseness and all of it, it would also depend on what kind of communication you're focusing on. It would be business communication or is it technical communication, because now I have discussed communication in a very generic manner, personal and professional, very intertwined. But when we go deeper into professional communication, like Sir pointed out while he introduced me, I have been taking sessions for corporate sector employees. So, how we interact in a professional space with our superiors, with our co-workers, with our colleagues, and with our clients and customers, all of these are different, which would which would demand different techniques. So
Yeah.
for that we would require another session or another setup altogether. And all of these, like you mentioned, clarity, coherence, conciseness, correctness, all of this are very theoretical.
Yes,
When
because
we put in, sorry,
yeah,
yeah, go.
basically, actually, I'm from IT background, and I have a lot of clients of Japan. So the language barrier is I'm facing. So I'm improving for the better communication, the effective communication. So I'm following this rule in my communication. So
Right.
everyone wants correctness of the sentences. So I haven't a strong vocabulary. So that is the reason I'm facing this issue. But I'm working on it, and I will improve soon.
Definitely. I mean, from what I could listen from you, I really am happy that you are bringing everything, putting everything into practice. And you
Yes,
might have seen the changes, or you might have seen the improvement yourself, right? So it's really good. I mean, keep up
yes,
the
yes.
good work.
Yeah.
Let you be an
Thank you.
amazing
And
communicator.
you
Yeah.
you can also give me a point like 1 out of 10. Um, what I'm doing in my communication. You
Right
can.
now, the way you communicated,
Yeah,
do you want?
actually, my
Let's
uh,
stay out of
also
evaluation this
yeah
day.
yeah. Actually, my teacher is also connected here, so he
Yeah.
can check.
No, but we'll do one thing as Mohammed Aslan. You're wonderful as a person, and of course, the way you are moving ahead and developing your skills, that's commendable. Wonderful.
Yeah,
We would be, planning more sessions with Navami ma'am, and I'm sure it's not just one session that would suffice
yeah,
everything. So we would do more of such sessions, and we would invite ma'am furthermore. And I
yeah.
think there you would see all the transition as well that's happening for you.
Yeah. Thank
So
you
thank
so much.
you for
Yeah,
that. And Navi ma'am, that reminds me very interestingly of a question, and then we'll take other questions as well. That you rightly mentioned about the fact that how you handle conflicts or disagreements constructively through communication. Because at times we are just bursting out of energy and that rage that we have to say something to the other person. So how can it be done in an effective way, yet not, maintaining our standards of politeness, and also coming across as someone who is patient and not aggressive? So if you can just throw some light on it, how to manage it, because there are people who say when you are in the fit of responding to someone, just take a minute's break and then respond. Maybe I don't know if there's some techniques, quick thing that can be done over here.
Uh, to quickly answer that question, ideally speaking, there shouldn't be any conflict, right? You say I hear, and then we forget it, and then we move on. But like I said in the beginning, because all of us are human beings and we come from different places, we come from different emotions. We might be with a different emotion on a particular day, and some chaos is happening in our workplace, and where we have to be assertive, we might be aggressive. We might turn out to be arrogant at that point, and that could lead on to it could just be one silly issue, and maybe it would jeopardize your whole career, or whole year that you work there at that particular point. So in that moment, that is where I again, coming back to my first point, that you cannot take another individual for granted. Totally, we all understand that we have different issues. We might have had a terrible day at our home, and then we're getting out with a fight and meeting then we're going to work, and there we have an issue already there, and when we should have been polite, we because we could not control our anger, because we could not be assertive. We can be angry and we can put our idea out in an assertive manner. That can be possibly done, but when it does not happen, conflict arises, which to an extent now we have HR, human resource department, to manage the chaos, but often uh, it works in a very superficial manner. They bring in two people and they're like, okay, forget it, this time this happened, make sure that it doesn't happen the next time, and it might happen repetitively. So, for that matter, I would suggest that, like you said, you take up a minute to realize that. First part is you listen to the speaker. What are they trying to say? Are they trying to agitate you? No, they're just trying to put an idea across. which to which you might not agree with. So it is totally fine that you disagree. And unfortunately, the system doesn't allow disagreements. They don't take disagreements very well, right? They don't take intolerance very well. So it's a very tricky situation. So at that point, personally, also I would suggest I adopt this method, that I picture myself in the other person's place. That does this person really want to hear me saying this, or should I put it in a different sense, in different words? Maybe I'm saying the same thing. For instance, let's say somebody, my my boss said, from next month onwards, everybody should be marking your attendance at 9 in the morning. So I could say, no, how is that possible? It's not at all possible. You don't consider our situation. How can you just bring in such laws and rules as just like that, you without any prior information? Like, so I could just burst out. Or I could also say, sir, it's very essential that you understand the current traffic scenario, because of the construction of a particular bridge or a particular place, the whole city is constantly suffering through a bad traffic jam every evening or every morning. So it would be difficult for many of us to reach maybe at that particular dot on 9. So kindly consider us, or kindly grant us a 10 minutes leeway. So that could have been also said in that way. So if it had been my first approach, then the meeting, or then the communication wouldn't have happened in a proper way, or in a successful manner. But if I'm taking the second approach, then maybe the boss would reject it, but there is a lesser risk of conflict. So that, I think, that kind of approaches depends on the people with whom we interact. So with one person, my one strategy might work. But with another person, the same strategy wouldn't work. We could be polite. Our basic personality, we could develop it as a polite personality. But in order to develop it as an assertive personality, we need to consider to whom we are speaking with. What kind of a person are we speaking with? And sometimes there are people who strategize, and if suppose my boss enjoys flattery and provides benefits based on that, and there might be your fellow employees who would be benefiting out of that. They might be just praising your boss, and they might be getting benefits out of it. And if you're not that person, like that, you cannot just praise your boss in order to have something out of it, get some benefit out of it, profit out of it, then let it be. This depends on your own perception of yourself. How do you perceive yourself? What kind of a person are you? And be secure with it. Until and unless you're not hurting other person, that's fine. Right? The basic part, or the fundamental element of or fundamental aspect is not to hurt any other person. That's why, again, going back to the first answer, the first question that we had, it's about building a holistic, harmonious environment where people feel at home, where people feel safe and secure. So if you are secure within, then you are like, okay, fine, let them do whatever they want, but I am going to take a stand. I'm not going to engage in any conflict, but let them be. So that is an inside-outside process. It's constantly there, and of this we should because all of these are skills. This will all take time to develop. If we have not had the habit of developing it up until now, and one fine day you cannot develop it. If you are an angry person, always angry, then one day you will have to just make sure that, okay, now I'm just done. I'm not going to be angry. Let's see how can I deal with it, or I just stay silent. So there are different techniques, of course, technical aspects of it, and like we could just inhale and exhale 10 times, count to 100 and see, or we could have that sponge balls where to release our tension and to help us smile, or watch panda videos and all of it. But in a meeting where your response is such instantly, this all of these videos might not work. So that would take an effort from all of our end. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think very interestingly, you've put the fact across that we also need our, it's just like a negotiation that happens between the responses. So the way you approached for the first point and the second approach, wherein we seek some kind of a logical argument and we put it across and we try to explain the other person what is it that is causing this delay, or why am I doing in such a specific way. Maybe the other person understands my reasons and either understands and accepts it, or extends me some solutions to it. So it can be harmonious. The way you said, the basic purpose of any dialogue, any communication is to instill a clarity of thoughts and to be harmonious. That's very important. Perfect. I
Yeah.
think we would need more of such sessions with you, Navami ma'am, to delve more into these kind of on-the-spot situations, how one can deal. And what you rightly mention is the fact that it doesn't happen overnight. It's a practice that constructs itself over a span of a long time, maybe months and years, and that's how you change your personality. That's true. Since we have little time left, I'll be very quick with some of the people who are trying to ask questions. So, Shubhashish, over to you. Yeah, Shubhashish, could you just unmute yourself if you have any question?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was talking on mute. Well, thank you, ma'am, for your wonderful, knowledgeable, and refreshing session. Firstly, I would like to comment that Jaivardhan sir always misunderstands me, and I cannot communicate with him properly because I keep on telling him again and again, sir, the wonderful uh, guests you are bringing and the wonderful topics you are having. 1 hour is not at all sufficient, but he never understands my message. That's the thing. I have at least 10 to 12 questions, but I would like to restrict myself with a small experience and two small questions. Okay. The
Okay.
experience is
Okay.
that the living example of effective communication is my mother, because my mother doesn't know any language apart from Bengali. But whenever she goes anywhere, like when we went to Goa, she managed to buy stuff with a mixed language of a little bit of Hindi, a little bit of English, and a little bit of Bengali, and a little bit of sign language. She managed to buy stuff from there effectively. So that's a living example of effective communication. We're just learning knowing just one language, but communicating effectively in a foreign, like Goa is a foreign land for us because it's not our language. Number one, that's the
Yeah.
experience. And my two small questions are: firstly, to what extent, ma'am, you feel that the technology is affecting, our communication, both in terms of individual communication and mass communication? So, because of the development, you have also mentioned that in your, like, say, while you're speaking, that technology has a great impact. So, to what extent is technology, you know what impact does technology have on the communication, both in terms of individual communication and mass communication? Number one. And my second question is, to what extent do you think that this video call is effective in communication for the deaf and dumb? Because I've seen, like, while traveling, I've seen many deaf and dumb people, those are talking over the phone through video call in the sign language. So, to what extent do you think is effective for the communication among the people, those who can't speak? These are my two small questions, ma'am.
Okay. Very, very interesting question. So to quickly respond to the first question, that we have all, I think we have discussed it to an extent regarding technology and communication. So, like I said, we are living in a digital era, and we are using, we have okay, Shashi has maybe sent a message saying, "May I say?" Oh, do you want to respond to
No,
Shubhashish?
maybe we will take her points just immediately once you will have responded, ma'am. So sure, she
Okay,
will allow you to speak once ma'am will have responded. Yeah, over to you, ma'am.
okay, sure, sure. So, for instance, AI. AI helps with, let's say, ChatGPT. ChatGPT is the popular AI source used by most of us, right? Even though there are other Copilot, Gemini, and Sai, and all of it. So Bing, or just for that matter. But AI doesn't help you to talk to another person. When you are having a communication with someone at your workplace, how much can you, for a meeting, maybe for a presentation, you can have your AI preparing things for you. But otherwise, how, when you are personally engaging with someone, and maybe if you are engaging on a telephonic conversation, then maybe yes, to an AI you can say write a conversation between me and my friend. We are meeting after 10 long years, and then maybe AI would generate a conversation. But that's not essential, that's not important, right? We as human beings, for communication, we don't need AI that way. But technology, like you said, there are advantages and disadvantages to any element, right? So technology helps you, like now we are across different places. If we had to come to one place, to then it would have been difficult for all of us, right? We are living the cost of traveling, the time that we spend, the time you take to travel to one place and then to go back. All of these issues are saved. You are It's an advantage that you can just switch on a link, access a link, and then you have a session, and then you can speak to people across the globe. So that is an advantage to speak. But disadvantage, like I said, with the influx of different media, different social media platforms, one thing is you do not see the other person. So, like you said, I'll connect it to the second question that you asked regarding deaf and dumb people who use technology to communicate, or use video chat to communicate, or use sign language to communicate. So, without seeing another person, we are somewhere blind, right? While we are communicating, we are our ears function as our eyes, with the tone they use, with the breath that you hear across the phone. You deduce from that what kind of an emotion is being delivered, is being expressed by the speaker. So, with technology, the physically the differently abled people, they are also brought into, like I said, they are also brought into the collective. They are also provided with multiple, hearing aids had been very revolutionary at a point of time, right? Now, because I have a friend who's differently abled, and uh, he had done his two masters with a recorder, with a recorder and a mic, and he did that. So technology helps communicate everybody in multiple ways, in different ways. But how do we turn that technology to our advantage? That is where it is important. If it is constantly disrupting your concentration, constantly disrupting your focus, constantly disrupting your engagement, your lively, active engagement with other people, then that is a disadvantage. So, like I said, it is totally on the individual and the system. Now we have digital classrooms. With the pandemic hit, everybody, all of us, all our students, all our children, they're attending classes from home. And with the videos not on, we do not actually know if they're sleeping or actually attending. But we have, like, called it suspension of disbelief. We imagine that, okay, they're listening to us, and we deliver, and then we go. That is an advantage and a disadvantage. A person who cannot travel, like you said, if they are differently abled, and it's a lot of hassle to travel from one place to another. For them, it's an advantage that they can just be at home and attend a class. So it is totally on us, and we need to do not fall prey to the constant digitization and digitalization, and be so dependent on technology that you do not see the living people around you.
True. Absolutely, ma'am. Thank you so much, Shubhashish, for those questions. And of course, your remaining 10 questions, because you said you have a set of 12 questions, we'll take it up in the next
Thank
session.
you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, I'll definitely do.
Thank you. Thank you, Shubhashish. Thank you, Navami,
Yeah,
ma'am.
and
And
just
since,
one information. She wanted to say something, but she left because her mother left with the phone.
oh, I
She's
thought
always
so.
eager to say. Like I told her that whatever you do, you always try to speak. So that is why
Right.
she prepared on this small topic, and she wanted, but her
Oh my
mother
God.
left with the phone, so
Oh,
she left the meeting.
oh my God. I'm so sorry for that. We had no idea. Otherwise, we
No,
would have
so
requested her to speak earlier.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway,
So I'm just informing.
right,
Thank you, sir.
right, right. Thank you, Shubhashish. And just to wrap up, we'll take one point from Shampa. Shampa, over to you. Quickly, we'll see your points as well. Yeah, you'll have to unmute yourself, Shampa. Shampa, are you able to hear me?
Okay, okay, I was on mute.
Yeah,
I'm
on mute. Yeah.
extremely
So,
sorry.
yeah, please go ahead. Not
Good
a problem.
morning, everyone. And to be honest, I have no questions to ask her because she has already answered all the questions. Like she has touched all the sectors of communications and their branches. So I was like, yeah, of course. Nowadays, this is the digital era, and the communication. We have a like very small span of that is going lesser and lesser and lesser. I feel like when I'm talking to someone, either someone is already scrolling something on their phone, so there is no eye contact, and the body postures and their body languages. It automatically tells that that person is listening to you or not. You get to know that that person is either listening or not listening. So from that thing, I always feel that the exterior, the other day you were talking about the exterior and the interior of a person. So the exterior, we can say that body languages and all. The interior, what the person is having inside, we do not know. That person might have been going through a lot of things. So it takes a lot of communication. I think it's a two-way process, and it takes a lot of time to understand the other person and make him listen to you. For me, like my child, he's only 10 years old. Whenever I ask him, sit here, I need to talk to you, he will run here and there and he will look at me. It's very difficult for me to make him sit at one place. So this is the I think this is the era which is going like this. I think
True.
Yeah,
that's it.
so true, so true. Whatever you said, I mean, with exactly with a child, and with a child, I am so sure that we would learn lots of patience, and
Yeah.
everything outside would seem that okay, fine, we'll deal with it. Uh, because you have the habit of, I mean, managing a 10-year-old person from a situation where they did not even speak.
I have a 20-year-old daughter also.
So you are a pro to say.
Perfect.
And
Right.
one more thing I would rather want to just add over here. Like
Yeah.
sometimes what happens, even we are our inside, sometimes it happens like here we are in so many things inside of us. But we need to be concise about our politeness. We need to, hold of it. We need to take hold of it, what we are
Yeah,
talking about. So the words we pick, what are we
exactly.
talking about? Let's choose this word. I always think that what should I speak? Should I
Hmm.
use this word or should I use that word? This would be a more politer one to use this one. This should not hurt the person. So this is so important for me. So I
Yeah,
practice many a times. Even like sometimes it seems for me like, oh, it's such a fake thing to do, but I'll have to practice this.
I
Sometimes
No,
know.
I get very angry inside, but my outside it's so calm and quiet. And because I'm talking to my son or my daughter, because if I say something else, my daughter might get agitated. So I have to think of all these things in my mind. Either
Absolutely.
I'm
I
very
think
happy.
you're right, Shampa, because the right choice of words, it does a lot of impact on the other person who's listening to us. And the way we said it can make or break. So it's very, it can be such a simple thing for the one who's speaking, but for the other person, it is a matter of a huge concern. So that way we need to pay attention to the words that we choose while we are establishing any kind of communication with anyone.
At that
Perfect.
point, also maybe we could wind up by saying that I mean, you could give disclaimers. If you're speaking to a group of friends, you could say maybe whatever I'm very angry and maybe I'm going to have an outburst. So some of my
Yeah.
words could hurt
Hurt
you,
you.
but I'm very sorry about that. But I just have to get it out, and then maybe okay, they are prepared for it, and they
Absolutely.
also know that you're guilty about it. So they're
Right.
like, okay, fine, let
Well,
it out.
that's a training. I think, Navami ma'am, what you beautifully rightly say that, putting that disclaimer out is also a training process that people, because the intentions are not such, they can outburst. So putting a,
Exactly.
that's a training that people need to understand that they have to say this before even they outburst. So I think that makes sense.
Before the outburst, I'll have to gather all the courage to say all these words again.
So that's it. That's a
Although
training.
I was like, oh my god, I have to shout at, or sometimes you need to yell at,
Yes.
because they won't listen. Sometimes it happens automatically because
Right.
you know what, I feel like how we have been, we have been trained. I would rather use this word trained because that is, it's already imbibed in our head. Because our parents used to always yell at us. You do something bad, they will yell at
Mm.
us. You do something good, okay, it's okay. So it was what we have learned from them. Now we are, we are unlearning those things, and now we are learning that okay, we should not yell at our kids. That keeps, that
Yes.
is a trauma for them. I think that's a trauma, and
So
which I'm learning. So means I'm still
yes.
practicing a lot.
Yes, I think the way Navi ma'am said, as the societies are changing, so is our, the contemporary era doesn't put into use the same kind of strategies that were used maybe 30 years back. So we have to change and we have to move accordingly. All right. So thank you so much, Shampa, for your wonderful experience that you shared with us. It is indeed interesting. And what you rightly say, Shampa, is the right choice of words. It does make a lot of difference to the whole process of communication. With
Thank
that,
you
we
so
have,
much, Navni ma'am and sir, because
thank you.
this one which I heard, like I was hearing it throughout, it was immensely beautiful, and
Thank
it
you.
has built. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much. Thank you so
Thank you,
much.
thank you, thank
I
you,
have
everyone,
learned
and my
so many
sincere
things.
thank
Ma'am,
you to
one more thing I want to
yeah,
like disclose with you all. So when you are talking about like our generation, like the latest generation, so it is known as in social media, so it known as Gen Z people.
Gen
Gen Z.
Z.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. So when you are talking about our like generation, so you always use Gen Z people. So it's like respected. I think as I noticed that it is a respected word for us. So you
Absolutely,
all are
absolutely.
in front of me, old people. Now I am like Gen Z people.
See, the words are there, but there are also emotions that they are there behind these words. So I think
Yes.
calling someone who's old is an old person. It doesn't harm the person until unless you have the
Uh,
right emotions
no, no,
behind it. So
I'm just entertainment
yes, yes, no, no, no. You're right, Mohammed. That's absolutely correct. But it's just that the words are efficient and effective only when they have some emotions attached to them. So I think that also makes a lot of sense.
you can also search like your generation what you are saying. So it is your
Absolutely.
point of
Thank you
view.
so much. Thank you so much.
The generations now, it doesn't matter, does it? Because all of us, we belong to different time periods, born and brought up in different years.
Yes,
But look at all of us are sitting, sharing the same
sharing
platform
the
and
same platform.
discussing same thing.
Yeah.
So that
So
is about
yeah.
the time and the global space, and it's like that.
Yes.
So
True.
yeah,
Absolutely, absolutely. So once again, I would like to extend my sincere thank you to you, Navni ma'am, for being there and for such an enriching and beautiful session, such a thought-provoking session. Thank you so much for your kind presence, and we look forward to such more sessions. And once again, thank you to all the dear participants for having pulled out some time on Sunday for this session. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Navni ma'am.
Thank you so much.
thank you.
Take care.
It was
Thank you, sir.
lovely.
Take
It
care.
was a
Thank you.
lovely
And
session.
and
I also
I think
enjoyed.
Jaivardhan sir now understood what I want to communicate.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Thank you, Shubha.
Thank you,
Please
sir.
take care of that. Thank you. Yeah, take
Thank
care,
you, sir.
everyone.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Navami,
Thank
ma'am. Take care.
thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting.